What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, I'm just going to be giving you a real short, sweet, and simple update on Mana. This is probably going to be like a 4 or 5 minute long video, but I know with Bitcoin's price trying to make the move up to 52K and a lot of excitement in the market right now today, I know a lot of you are wondering what's up with Mana and what some of the technicals around it are, and so of course I'm here to provide you with that info. So of course, over the last couple of days, we have made a few buys on Mana on the channel and over in the Patreon. Now, the most significant, of course, being the Mana buy that we had at $3.51 that we did fund with some of the profits that we took from Luna. Now, that purchase that we made about 3 or 4 days ago at $3.51 is currently up a solid 11.5% right now, so it's doing quite well, and I am very happy with that performance, especially considering the fact that it was pretty well timed. Now, on the channel, after that breakout, we did give you guys another mention. We gave you another level in which I thought could be a good entry point, and that was going to be at $3.70. Now, of course, that was coming from this backtesting of support at $3.70, and once we did get that closing and backtesting of support, that purchase would now be up about 6% or so roughly. And so with that being said, there have been 2 really good purchases recently, one 6%, one 12% roughly, and so that's going to of course be that's something good to see, and of course we like to see that on the channel. We are consistently providing some of those opportunities. Now, going forward, one thing I will say is that it does seem as if we need to kind of take a step back now from Mana, and I don't think right now makes a lot of sense to be doing a lot of aping in. Now, as I do say that, I will go ahead and say that I am extremely bullish on Mana. I'm under the belief that it can still definitely see the $4.50 to $5 region at some point. I don't really see that being outside of the realm of possibilities. And so with that being said, if you are long on this thing, if you do see the long-term potential, I don't think that it necessarily matters when you do or do not buy. But for those of you who are looking for the sniper entries, for those of you who are looking for great entries, then I'm going to go ahead and provide you what I'm thinking. So looking at Mana right now, of course, kind of going through some of the indicators, the biggest thing that I am noticing is that as we are growing at the moment, we are getting a bit extended, just a little bit extended to the point that it's getting a little bit hard to maintain, and that is kind of why you see the bit of a rounding off effect happening here. Now, what I mean by that is if we look at something like our RSI, for example, we can put it into perspective of relative strength. Now, looking at the relative strength index, again, the RSI, we can see that we put in a high back here on our last macro high, okay, on this little trend in which we put in. Now, as we have started to recover, and as we've seen something of a V-shaped recovery, we've not gone back up to clear that previous high. But if you look on our RSI, in that time in which we have currently not set this higher high, we've already gone up to set the higher high. Now, if the price of Mana does go up and push back above $4.16, this is really no big issue. We have a higher high on the price, a higher high on the RSI. But at the moment, considering the fact that we've not done that yet, that is what you would call bearish divergence. Now, it's not confirmed bearish divergence because there has not been a point of reversal yet. But it is something to keep an eye on as the price is climbing. And what you need to keep an eye on is the fact that if we do start to put in something of reversal or a back test of support, that goes ahead and says that we might be moving a little bit too fast, and we may need to give this thing a little bit of time to either consolidate or to go in a bit of a short-term downtrend to allow these things to reset themselves. And so we can correct this overextension in which we are seeing at the moment. Looking at something like the Bollinger Bands as well, you can see that we have now reached the top side of our Bollinger Bands. Remember, as we do track Bollinger Bands, their significance is that they are measured by 2 standard deviations away from a moving average. So when you're looking at your Bollinger Bands, you have your 20 simple moving average that runs as the orange line. Then you see these 2 blue lines. The blue line on top is going to be 2 standard deviations to the top side from your moving average. The blue line on the bottom side is going to be a bottom side 2 standard deviations away from the moving average. And typically in crypto, what we know is that the price of a cryptocurrency can typically only maintain going outside of 2 standard deviations or up to 2 standard deviations for not that long before it will eventually resort back to its moving average. So if we look at something like our, just our history in the charts, what we can see is that there's been many times in which we've seen these huge moves that eventually resort back down within these Bollinger Bands and eventually back down towards the moving average, because again, the price of a cryptocurrency can only maintain 2 standard deviations or more for a short amount of time. One really good example of this is what we saw right before our big explosion from what we saw back in August and July, in which every time we saw these 2 standard deviations execute, we would see that near immediate retracement. Execute, near retracement. Boom, boom. Then eventually we saw the push to the bottom side. Then we went back up to the top. Then the bottom side. Then we started to inch back up to the top. And so you can see how we interact with these Bollinger Bands so significantly. They can give us a bit of a hint of when we're extended and when we're not. And considering the fact that our RSI is telling us that we are a bit extended right now in terms of seeing somewhat of a bearish divergence that's not confirmed yet, mixed in with the fact that our Bollinger Bands are also seeing topside extension right now, I would go ahead and say that I do believe there is still momentum for this thing to trace and, go back up to 425 and maybe even set this high, which would completely invalidate that bearish divergence. But at the moment, I wouldn't be aping in. And that's kind of my answer for today's video, is that sure, I think slowly laddering in right now and putting in some small positions as we do see some of these shorter time frame breakouts, I don't think that's a problem. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, especially if you have faith in the metaverse. But personally, I'm not going to be doing a lot of buying, a lot of accumulating until we do start to either see the invalidation of mana, which is going to go back up, and the invalidation of the bearish divergence, which looks like the clearing of 425, or if we're going to see a bit of a retracement, something on the daily charts, looking at our Bollinger Bands, that looks like us falling back down towards, who knows, $3.40, $3.50, and allows us to retrace back to our 20 simple moving average, put in some of these higher lows. Even at that point, we would come back and interact with our exponential moving averages as well, which provide us with even more support, as you can see. And then using that support and using that foundational establishment to then work our way up, at that point, I would like to be buying more, or quote unquote aping in. But buying in at this exact moment doesn't necessarily make the most sense, and I would say that it's a bit of a coin flip. So if you are doing that, in my non-financial advisor opinion, of course, I would be taking it very slow, and I would be taking it very gradual, and I don't think now is the time to be putting significant amounts of money in if you're not willing to take on a bigger risk. So with that being said, that's really going to be about it for today's video. Do remember that a lot of the market is relying on Bitcoin to continue its momentum, and so while it is important to look at individual charts like mana, I think it's even more important to be paying closer attention to Bitcoin. Do we go up? Do we close above 52K? Do we put in the new local high? And can we see this run start to continue? Because if that is the case, I have no doubt in my mind that we would see mana follow. But with that being said, of course, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. And if you did, you can let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.